us off this morning in the lesson, which is Everything is My Teacher, by sharing the trailer for the HBO documentary, The Weight of Gold. And if you haven't seen it, I invite you to watch it. It is very powerful.
Michael Phelps is one of the fastest swimmers in the world.
None of us had normal childhoods.
I want to win.
I knew it was the biggest stage that I would perform for in my life.
For Olympians, that's what defines you.
Athletes have worked their entire lives for this moment.
I wanted to do everything I could to be the best skater I could.
Everything revolves around this sole focus, and that sole focus is the Olympics. And now the next 40 seconds will dictate our human lives.
But after the Olympics, the village doors close, and that's kind of it.
Win or lose, I felt a dramatic emptiness.
We're just so lost. A good 80%, maybe more, go through some kind of post-Olympic depression.
It's gold, and then what?
I didn't develop outside interests.
I thought of myself as just a swimmer and not a human being. That's where I was just like, why don't I just end it all?
From the outside, it's like you got everything.
Athletes just don't talk about our weaknesses.
That just cracks the facade.
Mainstream media love building somebody up and then come crashing down.
Depression puts you into a spiral. You just start getting deeper and deeper into it.
He was my best friend.
We have to do something. And this is important.
Youth around the world watch and look up to these people. I've given my blood, sweat, and tears. And all I'm asking is that someone can help me get through this.
We're human. I don't think I have to say anything else.
When we think of an Olympic athlete, we see them as individuals who are strong, who have speed, who have sheer determination and discipline. And society views medal winners as our heroes and heroines. And sponsors and businesses see them through the lens of dollar signs as they promote their brand. And rarely do we ever hear about the mental and emotional anguish of these athletes, as it is highlighted in the documentary, The Weight of Gold. And in The Weight of Gold, these Olympians share the weight of their mental and emotional anguish that results from them trying to be the best, to be a winner, of sacrificing their childhood experience and having basically no social life. And they are led by the will of their sponsors and their trainers. And in one moment, they are being built up by the media, only in the next moment to be beat down by them. And Michael Phelps shares that when Olympians' careers and dreams come to an end, that more than 80% of the Olympians experience deep depression, feeling of emptiness, of loneliness, and they go through a crisis in identity. Way back eons ago, before all of our special services and the holidays, we began delving into the spiritual practices that are delineated in Robert Brummett's book, Living Originally. And at the beginning of the series, I had shared something that Robert Brummett offered us. And it's not just Robert Brummett, but I would say most spiritual teachers say that when we have a crisis in identity, that it is really a spiritual crisis. And that crisis arises when we live from our personality selves, from our societal facade, when we allow that the personality to be in charge, to be in the driver's seat, rather than living from within out, being and living our lives from our divine origin or authentic selves. We saw in this little clip that I had shared that Apollo Ono, Olympian speed skater, said that his sole focus, SOLE, and pretty much the sole focus of all the athletes was to perform in the Olympics. And we see now that as the emptiness within them, the depression and the loneliness rises so deeply, they are being called to move from a soul, SOLE, to a soul, SOUL focus, where they're being called to look within, to rediscover the truth, to know the truth of who they are by uncovering and listening to the inner stirrings of their souls. And when we look at soul focus, it brings us to an aspect, a teaching, the sixth practice in Living Originally, which is everything is my teacher. And in this practice, Robert Brummett shares that every person, place, object, event, circumstance in my life is a potential teacher. And here the potentiality lies in our own willingness to be open to the learning that seeks to be revealed from within based on our interactions and our experiences. And according to Robert Brummett, there are two types of learning, conventional and deep. And in order for us to move into everything is my teacher, the essence of that, we must move from not only conventional learning to deep learning. So let's just look at what those two mean. So first we look at conventional. And the word conventional means in accordance what is generally practiced and believed. It is a standard of learning that is shared by members of society. It is different skill sets that we acquire and learn. It is intellectual knowledge that we obtain, and conventional learning requires us to be disciplined. And these acquired skills and intellectual knowledge support us in learning how to play an instrument, learn how to read, how to write, drive a car, become a gold medalist swimmer, skater, gymnast, and so on and so on. Now, conventional learning helps us to navigate in this world, right? We embrace the gift of being in this world, but not of it. And when we use these conventional skills where we allow our ego or our personality self to be in service of our higher selves, we do enjoy some freedom and opportunity. But in order for us to allow our higher selves to be in charge and not the other way around, we must move from conventional learning into what Robert Brummett calls deep learning. And deep learning means, instead of looking to all the teachers out there, like the Olympians looking at their trainers, their sponsors, so on and so on, where they begin that inward journey. When we move from looking to what our employers want, our people and our relationships, and we, the facades we wear by the roles we play, and we move within, and we allow the wisdom to be taught, so to speak, to arise from deep within us, from within our hearts, our souls, and our minds. And we engage the world to be in it, but not of it, by allowing that interaction of relationships and experience to uncover and bring us closer, uncover things, to uncover truths within us, to bring us closer home and to live more fully from our divine nature. And so in the book, when Robert Brummett speaks of, I'm looking at that water and I'm going to clear my throat, the power of suggestion. So in the book, when Robert Brummett speaks about deep learning, the aspects of deep learning, I tried to create an acronym to help us remember. So I created the acronym OEG. So I'm asking us to move from ego being in charge to using the acronym OEG. So what does that mean? So deep learning requires us or asks of us to be open, to willing to be teachable, to have beginner's mind, to know that in life, many times and most of the time, of my human understanding, I am limited. Of my human understanding, I know nothing. To be open also means that I allow my feelings, the sensations of my body and the thoughts. This was introduced in practice 1, radical self-awareness. To live within, we begin to look at our feelings, our sensations and thoughts. And again, those are our teachers as well. Instead of analyze them, we are just open to experience them, allow them to rise. And in this practice of deep learning, allowing everything to be my teacher, we move into being empty. That is where we look at and relinquish our energy from, we don't fight with it, but our personal agendas, our attachments to how we think life should be for us, our attachments to how we think others should be showing up. We're willing to empty ourselves of criticism and condemnation, of projection, of needing to prove that we are right, that we have all the answers, and you should be doing what I say, and the many forms of resistance, and the stories that we play, the meaning we assign to everything. And so when I say empty, again, all of these practices mean that we allow them to arise, notice them, breathe into them, and saying, everything is my teacher. And the G, the O, the E, the G, aspects of deep learning. The G is about, once I am open, I know nothing, I am willing to learn. Of my humanness, I know nothing. To be willing to sit with our attachments, our resistance, allowing the breath to flow freely, and allowing wisdom from within to guide us. And the athletes shared in the Weight of Gold that they were ready. They were ready to move from conventional learning to deep learning. Now, they didn't use this language, but this is what was being modeled. And they were willing to be open to empty and to be guided from within. And never did Michael Phelps know that winning 23 gold medals, 3 silver and 2 bronze medal would ever lead him eventually to becoming an ambassador of mental health for athletes, right? How often in our lives does that happen? You know, I picked the song Blessing in Disguise. You know, I had the theme going, but I didn't have the fullness of the talk or the lesson. And then as I was listening to the song again this morning, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so perfect, right? We're in the midst of an experience and we are resisting it because it is painful, a person, a situation in our lives. And then finally, after the pain and suffering intensifies, instead of reaching out here for all the things to make us feel better, we're like, oh, why don't I go within? Why don't I maybe surrender? And we take that deep breath in, and then we allow the inner voice. We allow ourselves to be changed from the inside out. Sometimes we don't get the lesson that has been offered to us until later on, just like Michael Phelps. Just like me, I have so many examples. You know, when I was married to my ex-husband who suffered from the disease of alcoholism, and when I was in the throes of the pain and suffering, trying to raise 2 young boys, I didn't see it as a blessing in disguise. I didn't want him to be my teacher. I wasn't open to any of that. And then eventually, through the process of surrendering, going within, it led me to Al-Anon, to Course in Miracles, to Unity, and never in a million years would I have ever thought it would lead me to be a minister in Unity. And now looking back, I see such the gift that came of it, but I needed to be willing to live from the inside out. So it is a call for all of us. Yes, we're all to be in this world, engage in the conventional learning, but to allow everything to be our teacher, we must be willing to be disciplined. A lot of times we think about the discipline of learning something in the physical world, but spiritual practices require discipline. And after Robert Brummett explains each spiritual practice, he invites us into a general practice and a formal practice. And the general practice is always something we do and remember as we move throughout our day. So he invites us to affirm as you move through your day, everything is my teacher, and to just breathe into it. And when we come in contact with somebody who might be challenging, or an event happens that frightens us, scares us, or we want to resist, again, breathe in, everything is my teacher. And you may notice some resistance and annoyance, but we're supposed to breathe into, not supposed to, but we're asked to breathe in and to be gentle with ourselves and just notice. The formal practice is always about taking a specific period of time to be still and to go within. And here the formal practice is, I invite you to the OEG, which is the aspects of deep learning. So let us all take a deep breath. And so we're asked to pick something that is happening that we are resistant to, that is causing us pain and suffering. And I know that all of us have experienced the horrific, as we watched the domestic terrorist attack on our Capitol this week. You don't have to use this one. I just know it is a shared collective experience. And instead of allowing our personality selves to lead us through this, what it would be like if we were open to deep learning, allowing it to be our teacher. And so we ask ourselves, am I willing to be teachable here? Am I willing to say in my openness that of my humanness, none of this makes sense? And I breathe into, which many courageous people did on our prayer circle Zoom connection the other day, where we breathe into the feelings that were arising, allowing them to be. You're also asked, this is all radical self-awareness, where the sensations in our bodies and our thoughts, and we're just present. We begin the focus here rather than out here. And then the emptying, the resistance, the attachment, the blame, the shame, all those things that we do from our reactive personality selves, which isn't easy. And then we are guided from within. And he gives some questions within the practice. What does the wisdom of my feelings reveal for me? And what do you have to say? He asks that you speak directly to the feeling, and that's what the you underline is here, where you speak to your feelings directly. What do you have to say to me? What do you want from me? What gifts do you offer me? And you may not get answers right away, and sometimes you will. And who am I willing to be as I am present to all of this? Now more than ever, we need to be disciplined in deep learning and allowing everything to be our teacher. It doesn't mean that we don't speak truth to power or do things. But if we do more of the same, if we continue to be polarized, if we continue to think that the problem is solved at the level that it was created, if we continue to think that we can take the skill set of all that we bought into in our humanness and what society tells, and all of these institutions that no longer we can see, right? Just like the depression and all that had occurred for those Olympians. We as a society are being brought to that because we have not been living from the truth. Now, I'm not saying that all of us are at the level of what's being played out by the terrorists or the leaders in government who are dysfunctional, who are corrupt, who are sick, who are unhealthy. But defaming and attacking and posting all day long, how does that serve us? Because it's about who are we willing to be? How does my light help to create the shift that I so desire? So my friends, I close with this. As we breathe into the times that we are in and all the personal things that are going on for you, let us remember these words by Jackson Kidar. Anything that annoys you is teaching you patience. Anyone who abandons you is teaching you how to stand up on your own 2 feet. Anything that angers you is teaching you forgiveness and compassion. Anything that has power over you is teaching you how to take your power back. Anything you hate is teaching you unconditional love. Anything you fear is teaching you the courage to overcome your fear. And anything you can or can't control is teaching you how to let go. So my friends, may we all be open to allow everything to be our teacher. Namaste.